Welcome back to the Eat to Live podcast. I'm here with my dad, medical doctor, nutritional expert, Dr. Fuhrman.
Hi, everybody. And I'm here with my daughter, Jenna, my middle daughter, who's an expert in everything.
That's why he invited me on this podcast.
Right.
We're going to talk about all things healthy living. And today's topic?
Well, we're going to talk a lot about gardening and the benefits of soil and what to do and how our health relates to the health of the soil.
You asked me the most amazing quiz question, and I can't believe, I'm embarrassed to say that I got it wrong, but could you repeat it?
Yes,
I found it so fascinating.
It's that we're talking about the factors that lead to human longevity and which is more related to being a healthy centenarian, let's say.
Which is a person that lives to 100.
Person lives to 100, but at least
or
has their full mental faculties and has a life, not a person who's like
which are
a
two
healthy
very
centenarian,
things.
Right? So we want to have a great healthy life expectancy, not just live long, but live healthy with our full physical ability, mental ability to fully enjoy every day we're living. That's what we're all about, and that's what my niche in the field of healthcare is, not to give people advice for the masses, not to give people what they want to hear, but to instruct people for those who want to know what's the best thing to do to be in the best health possible, to extend their lifespan the most with their full mental and physical capacity. And I'm saying that the same lifestyle that makes for the longest lifespan also has the strongest ability to reverse disease, to be used therapeutically to enable people to get well from serious illnesses.
And that's really, I always tell people this, that is my motivation and why I am so passionate about this healthy lifestyle and the nutritarian diet, is that I don't want to decline with age. I don't want my quality of life to decline at all. So I eat with such vigor every day, eat these nutrient-rich foods so that I won't decline. And I know I'm protected. It feels so good to know that you're not going to get sick in your future life.
You have confidence, you're not fearful, and you fully can enjoy your every day you're living. Most people my age can't really have as much fun. We have more fun living healthfully, keeping our health.
Right. So you're asking, back to your quiz question, the number one factor.
My quiz question, so let's have A, B, C, or D. A is what linked to longer lifespan in a healthy centenarian. Is it walking every day? Caloric restriction? Eating a diet that's plant-based? Or is it people who garden regularly? Which one of those is most closely associated with longer lifespan?
So the factor that contributes the most to the longest lifespan is?
And most people get it wrong because the answer is gardening. How could it be gardening?
It blows your mind.
It blows your mind.
Especially how you've spent my whole life telling me that to be healthy, you have to eat a healthy diet and you have to get those vegetables. But what we're also learning is that an action you can take and something you could do that can also help you live a longer life.
Well, of course, all these things make you live longer. When they're all put together.
That's why I got the question wrong. Yeah, it was tricky. I thought it was caloric restriction.
It's a tricky question, but of course, all these things matter. But there's more research that's been accumulating over the last couple of decades that having some of your diet be from fresh food that has real soil-based organisms in it. For example, there's a compound called ergothioneine that's found in mushrooms, but it's also found in other vegetables that are raised in soils that contain fungi and microbes and bacteria and insects and worms, and in other words, decayed organic matter that insects and microbes and bacteria live off of. And plants that are grown in this soil with decayed organic matter have more nutrients in them. And we're, the nutritarian person like you and me, are trying to get the nutrient density of our tissues higher to be in better health.
Sure.
And having food that's grown from soils that have nutrients higher is one of the, you could say, extra tricks to push push the envelope of human longevity. And when you grow foods that are only grown in farms, where they till the soil and they mix it with chemical fertilizers, even if they don't use insecticides and pesticides, you're still destroying the bacteria and fungi. You're still not getting the ergothioneine production and the other nutrients that could be present in these vegetables. And growing some of your vegetables yourself is very valuable adjunct, even if you're eating some commercial food.
So you just said a lot. So you're saying the soil can have a different quality of nutrients, whether some soil is more nutrient rich than others.
Yes.
And is it all farms that have lower quality soil? Does it depend on the size? Are there smaller farms better than, are you talking about commercial farming versus local farms?
Yes, we're talking about most commercial farms, and even and even some organic growers till the soil, turn it over.
Oh, why do they do that?
Well, because they're grinding the crop into the ground. They're turning it over and getting ready to plant a new crop. So they plant lettuce or vegetables, and then they till the soil, and then they seed it again. And we're saying that when you till the soil, you're destroying fungi, organisms, worms, insects. You're even just turning over the soil with a rototiller, you're going to be destroying the certain... So when we're doing what we call regenerative organic agriculture, that's the key word, is regenerative, where you're focused on improving the quality of the soil, regenerating healthy soil. The health of our individual species is dependent on the health of the dirt on the planet.
So how do you improve the quality of the soil?
Well, that's the thing, is that's what we do when we garden. That's what a gardener does. So there's a lot of reasons gardening makes you live longer, but one reason is that we do is we make compost. And we take the food off our plates that we don't eat, and the banana skins and the things, this apple pea, whatever it is you're not eating, apple cores, the lettuce, and we compost that. We might mix it with weeds that dried out. Might grind the weeds and put that in there, put the food compost in there, put some, dead matter like rotting trees that we have around the house. And so, in other words, the first thing I do is to make a compost pile, is put all the organic matter in one spot, and then I water it, and I put some special type of bacteria on it that speeds the development of the compost. And if you have a nice pile of compost, sometimes I even put horse manure from the neighbor in there too.
Really?
Because the neighbors have horses, you know what I mean now.
This is a side question, but does poop and pee actually go into soil?
The poop and pee from the animals increases the nitrogen of the soil, can improve the quality of the soil. But one thing...
So that's true. It could actually improve the quality of the soil.
Absolutely.
That's nuts and gross all at once.
And it adds to the bacteria, the type of bacteria that grow. It's very, very good for the soil. But the reason why we're making our own fertilizer with our own compost is because when you buy commercial fertilizer, it's made with chicken manure.
Okay.
There's usually heavily in chicken manure. And chicken manure is generally high in arsenic. So you don't want to put a lot of arsenic in your fruit and vegetable garden. But the point is that every year we're letting whatever died, the vegetables die out, lay on the top of the soil, put more compost on top. Maybe we're spreading it or mixing it a little bit on the surface, but we're not going deep and destroying the worms. We're trying to keep the soil relatively untouched, but we're building our garden beds with a series of better and better layers of organic matter. So we grow our own good soil. So we're growing our vegetables. We're having the best quality vegetables to add onto whatever commercial vegetables we buy organically, to have some of our own that we garden. Now, just to add a few more concepts here, is that gardening involves touching the soil, and I'm suggesting that we should not even wear gloves. We should actually touch the soil with our hands. And some people call it earthing or grounding, where they go barefoot on the soil. Because it's well known that people, for example, who work in soil or who walk on, or people who are raised in houses that have soil or dirt base, that have like
dirt and soil floors.
Dirt floors of their house.
Are you talking about poor communities? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
Poor communities that have dirt floors around the world, they don't see autoimmune disease and allergies, because being around the bacteria and the dirt is so healthy for the human body. And it's actually, so the reason we have autoimmune diseases and our immune systems don't function well is we've lost that connection with the soil. So actually being barefoot in the sand, like we go to the beach and walk barefoot in the sand.
Yeah.
Or working our hands in the soil. And I wash under my nails, and I try even to work with the soil and to make my own compost and to shovel and to move soil. Of course, you're using your whole body. It's like going to the gym. You're pulling, you're lifting things, you're mulching, you're lifting wheelbarrows, you're digging ditches, you're digging holes for trees. It's really great exercise.
So on one hand, sorry, I just have to touch on this. One hand, I have a parent who's telling me she washed my feet. Even she didn't want me even walking in the house 30 feet. So mom washes my feet in the sink as a kid my whole life and taught me good hygiene. Right. And then I have my father, on the other hand, who's teaching me, forget floors, just live in dirt.
That's right. It's better to be exposed to dirt. That's one of the reasons gardening is so good, exposes you to dirt.
But you're saying so like dirt and bacteria and this stuff, part of the natural earth, is actually strengthening our immune system because we're like exposed to so much more different bacteria and stuff.
Yes, but you know about the microbiome and the probiotic effect of you taking probiotics? Well, yeah, being exposed to soil in your environment increases the diversity of bacteria in your gut and is great for the health, especially of children and the elderly, to be around soil organisms.
That's nuts. So running around kids and adults alike in your backyard is healthy.
being barefoot, going around in the grass and the sand, the dirt is very, very healthy to be.
Kind of magical.
Yeah.
Sounds very fun.
Yeah.
I swear, like all these things, healthy living, if you can lean into it, become very fun.
Yeah. And then, there's an electron. There's also, our bodies are electrical and they're chemical. And just like you ground an outlet, it's called grounding because we have reactive oxygen species, free electrons that age us. And when we're grounded, it pulls, we get more contact with negative electric charges from the earth. And then it removes the reactive oxygen species and stabilizes our immune system as well. So there's so many,
Really?
so there's so many advantages to gardening because in some way it keeps us connected with the soil. And there's something emotionally intellectual that extends human lifespan because it's something about like hope for the future, reconnecting with the earth and protecting the earth because we're so intrinsically tied to the health of the planet. The more connection we have with the health of the planet, the more it benefits our own health.
Yeah, I always say there's something, whatever your beliefs are in Mother Earth and just how we got here, there's something truly magical about the human species, how our brains go so far, how much we love nature. I think nature is such an innate part of humans to be in nature and to find it, and you find peace and happiness. And I just love anything that has to do with that.
Me too. I love being in the mountains, being on the beach, being in the soil. And also, you know what? I think a nutritarian is a unique way of seeing the world because we're looking at a bok choy that we grew ourselves and saying, look at the beauty, the art, the majesty in that bok choy.
I know you do that. But
Not only is it beautiful, but it's so nutrient rich of miraculous substances that protect your body and you're eating gold here. It's the best medicine right there, and you grew it in your own garden.
Well, I live in an apartment, so me, and for so many people out there, it's just not a reality. Like we don't have the space. But I will say I go to farmers markets every single week, and it has been a priority for me to stop shopping at grocery stores as much and really try to support that local farmer and the small farms in San Diego. I'm really fortunate to know a lot of them. So I even feel extra special when I'm eating the stuff they grow. And I feel like, wow, I know this guy, I'm supporting him. And
you know the person personally, you know the farmer himself.
And he's making me this awesome, delicious vegetables and stuff that he grew. I think it's so cool.
That is cool. But I'm saying something different here. I'm saying something additional to that.
Yeah.
I'm saying even if you're doing that and you're a nutritarian following my advice, I'm saying I still want you to do something additional to that. If you have an apartment, then I would like you to get a grow box, like a window box, and put some vegetables or herbs in there. And I want you to either have sprouting or microgreens growing in your house. So you have some connection with growing part of your own food. Even if you have an apartment, it's an added tweak to the nutritarian experience to say, okay, you're doing everything good. Now let's have you grow a little bit of your own food. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you the kind of foods I want you to grow and how to do it. Because just adding that 10% or that 5% extra, it adds it's like a mushroom a day. Do you know, there's a study that shows that women eating a 10 grams of mushrooms a day, which is the size of your thumb, that's just this much mushroom, reduces risk of breast cancer by 64%.
Does it matter what kind of mushrooms?
Well, variety of mushrooms is best. But,
okay.
But I'm saying the nutritarian diet has all these different features that have powerful effects. But I'm saying adding the sprouts, the microgreens, the gardening, the little box where you're growing a little of your own bok choy, all those things, or a plant in your house, having some plants in your house and a plant in your house that produces some fruit. That even if you live in Maine or northern Minnesota, you can still have plants in your house. And you know what? Is that this discussion reminds me of a person named Scott Nearing, who wrote the book, The Good Life. He was an MIT scholar. He was a recipient of, these awards for books on economics. And he wanted to show that you could live a happy, long life with little money. And him and his wife, Helen and Scott, lived in Maine. They wanted to show in a cold climate where he could build a greenhouse out of stone and grow his own food and be self-sufficient. And he lived to be over 100 years old. In great health. He wasn't even sick when he died. He died at the age of 101 in good health, but he felt he was getting a little tired to work all day, so we actually had a big celebration party, and he fasted himself to death.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
Why? Because he just felt it was time?
He felt it was time. He lived over 100 years old, and he felt he didn't want to ever get sick and have to go to a hospital. So he just, at the age of 101, he felt he couldn't work all day, so he might as well just end his life. So we had a big party, and it just quietly ended his life.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I have to read this book. That sounds like the most amazing story.
Yeah, it's really, and his wife lived a long time too, but she died in a car accident, I think, at 96.
Oh, really?
But what I'm saying right here is there's some connection. And by the way, he had money, but he didn't spend his money. He gave it away to charities, and he showed that he didn't need much money. He showed people how they could live and make their own food. It reminds me back of the U.S. government around in the early 1910, where there were for World War I, and through World War I through World War II, they encouraged victory gardens because they wanted to use the food that was grown by farms to be shipped to soldiers overseas, and they wanted people to grow as much of their own food as possible. And more than 40% of the food consumed in the United States came from people's own gardens in their own homes, showing that it's possible. That's 40.
That is so nuts.
That's a huge amount. So the change of the U.S. food supply from people eating foods they grew in their own home, which is almost half of their food supply, to now eating none of food they grew in their own home, but really is one of the hallmarks of the explosion of the heart attack and cancer epidemic that started in the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s.
Are the numbers really so low now? Like, I mean, you said none. Or does anyone do this? Does anyone have their own gardens and kind of live off the land?
Yeah. But not many people.
Yeah, like from 40%, we're going down to what, 1%?
1%, yeah. 40% to 1% have a significant part of their diet coming from foods they grow in their backyards in their own gardens.
I would just say the gardening is so removed from our culture now. Like, to get back there even, everyone probably is thinking, yeah, I'd love to do that, but it takes so much work.
Yeah.
But, but I don't have the resources. Like, there's all these excuses you could make. Like, I even have them. You know, I live in an apartment. I'm busy, this and that.
Right.
But you're saying go for it. You could do these little things to...
It gives you such a feeling of accomplishment, such a feeling of... Let me read you a quote here, okay?
Yeah.
Soil is where life begins. The healthiest soils make for the healthiest people. And that's a quote from Dr. Fuhrman.
Is that actually your quote?
Yeah, but here's a quote from Audrey Hepburn.
Did you make that just for this episode?
I just wrote it down as a quote.
I love it.
Okay, here's an Audrey Hepburn quote. To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow. Gardening adds years to your life and life to your years. And you get tomatoes.
Did you ad-lib that part?
No, I added that part. Somebody wrote it on the website. Somebody put it on the web. One of the members wrote on the website, and you get tomatoes, so I put that in there.
It's so
And
true.
here's one of Audrey Hepburn's most famous quotes. Let me read the whole quote because it's very profound. For beautiful eyes, look for the good in others. For beautiful lips, speak only words of kindness. And for poise, walk with the knowledge that you are never alone. That's pretty cool, right?
That's really profound.
From a movie star to say that.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you know Audrey Hepburn? I mean, she is such an icon. But besides being a movie star and like the ultimate example of glamour and poise, she actually grew up really poor, super poor. And she always felt, I think there's also a quote that she says, she never felt that she was like an icon or someone very important or better than others. She's like, I'm just me and I have no idea what other people are saying about me. But I think she was so grounded and such a humanitarian, and you know, all the answer's right here. She was a gardener. So that's what did it.
Yeah, people love gardening. I get a thrill from just growing things. So what I'm saying right now is certain things are really easy to grow.
Yeah.
And I love growing, and I recommend people grow bok choy, even if they have to grow bok choy in a little grow box. There's like earth boxes or window boxes. You can buy them for $20 on Amazon.
And bok choy grows out of the ground that easily?
Well, it grows in, you know what, I grow it in the garden because it has no bugs, no aphids, no whiteflies, no slugs, it's just when you grow broccoli and you grow cabbage, you get a lot of insects. When you grow bok choy, I have no invading insects. It's incredible how beautiful it looks. And bok choy is so versatile. You can eat it raw in the salad, which we did for lunch today. You can juice it, you can put it in, you can cook it, you can wok it. It's so incredible.
And for the record, did you know bok choy is a cruciferous vegetable?
No, I didn't know that.
but yeah,
it's a cruciferous.
You always said it was one of the healthiest foods on the planet.
It's super high in calcium too, you know. But in any case, I love to grow bok choy. Another thing I recommend people grow is asparagus, because once you set up the asparagus bed, you grow asparagus there in that same bed for the rest of your life without having to replant it again. So I set up one asparagus bed, I mulch the top of it, you plant the asparagus plants, and you don't eat the asparagus the first year or two. You just let it grow. And then after that, you have asparagus, which you're cutting all the time. And every day you go out there, a new asparagus is popping up. Asparagi.
I think it looks so cute.
Is the plural of asparagus asparagi? Because I know of embolus, it's emboli is plural from embolus. It must be asparagi.
It's for sure not asparaguses. So
yeah, so all these asparagi all over grow up, and you're able to cut down all these different asparagi. I don't know if that's the word. But anyway, and it's like magical to watch. Oh, they grow up the next day, they're back up again.
Yeah.
And there's no planting. Every year you just go out and pick it. You bring your kids, and it's almost like you want to stand there and watch them grow. They're growing so fast.
I actually have to find that video of you gave us, me and Kara, scissors, and you said, cut the asparagus. And so we're just going around the garden back in New Jersey. And so that garden always flourished in the summer. Yeah. And we just snipped it all, and it was so good.
For so many parts of the year.
I swear, the food when it's from your own garden or from a local farm definitely tastes better. I think the different soil, different level of nutrients really make the food taste different.
And when you absolutely. And everybody should have a fig tree. Because when we lived in New Jersey, I had a fig tree in a big pot, and I put it on a dolly, wheeled it outside from April to October, then put it in the garage, put it in the shed, put it in the house, right? Or people can have what I recommend is a Mayway kumquat tree too. Those are the two trees I recommend people grow. Beautiful trees, beautiful kumquats that prevent cancer, because you eat the skin and the seed, and they taste really sweet. And it's a round kumquat. You can't buy them in stores. Maiwa, Maiwa kumquat. And you can keep it outside, but you can keep it in your living room. Beautiful aroma, and the kumquats stay on the tree for 6 to 8 months.
You can keep them inside your house.
You can just grow it in your living room the whole time. They're beautiful. You put plants in your house. Why not put a kumquat tree in your house, which is a beautiful plant, and you can produces anti-cancer food right on it.
Well, you were making me feel better because I don't have my at-home garden set up yet, and I don't have any of these fruit trees inside my house, which I actually really want to do.
And you have a balcony.
I do have a balcony. It'd be perfect for that. And you said even I could have a grow box and like put those boxes out of my balcony.
Yeah, and you could just put a half hour a day into taking care of your plants, or 15 minutes a day. Now that I'm like semi-retired, I put like 2 hours a day between 6 in the morning and 8 in the morning. I work every morning from 6 to 8 in the garden.
Such a good way to start your day.
Yeah, digging holes or mixing mulch or carrying, or watering plants or picking or weeding the garden or planting new seed in the garden.
Which weren't you telling me that's also an incredible workout? So not only are you making all this good food that's healthy for you, but you said it's physically amazing. Because
around the trees I keep digging bigger holes, like a donut around the trees as they grow bigger, and I keep putting more compost in this 2-foot hole I dug around the tree that goes out, and removing the clay soil and putting in better soil. And just using a pick and a shovel and digging holes is really great for your whole body. That's really good. It's
reminding me of the Shia LaBeouf movie Holes. I just see you out there digging.
No, that's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Wait, so, okay, but you were making me feel better because I don't have my garden set up, but you were also saying that it doesn't matter if I do because the plants I have in my home are also good for you. Is that actually true?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because it's connecting yourself with nature for the reasons what we're talking about here. It's having the oxygenation of the plants, having the soil in your house.
Is it naturally purifying my air?
It purifies the air. It increases the oxygen in the air. It puts, that's right. All these things we're doing that are good for you, and also caring for the plants and making some of your own food. And I want people to put sprouts or microgreens. If they can't grow microgreens, you plant in dirt. So they can buy a tray, and we usually get dirt that has some peat moss in it, some worm castings in it, and maybe some mushroom compost.
So this is dirt that you purchase. Like, can you Amazon dirt with mushrooms?
Yeah, I can make my own dirt, but for people who don't have access to a backyard where they can make their own compost, they can buy a bag of mushroom compost. They can buy a bag of earthworm castings. And they can buy a grain of peat moss. Sometimes they even have some that mix them all together, and you can mix it yourself. And you put this down like a half an inch of soil in the tray. And you put the seeds on top, like the broccoli seeds or the arugula seeds or the kale seeds. Just sprinkle on the top, and we usually put something flat on top, to hold it down. And we water it well and hold it down. And when it's held down for 24 hours, we move the weight off the top because we push the seeds into the soil. And then a week later, we have plants that you can just snip off above the soil with a scissor, and you have microgreens, because baby greens have a higher concentration of the anti-cancer substances, particularly the isothiocyanates that protect against breast and prostate cancer. Those are perhaps the most concentrated anti-cancer nutrients we have, besides from mushrooms, or the isothiocyanates from cruciferous vegetables.
Or ITCs.
The ITCs. And in the baby greens, they're concentrated maybe 20 times higher, 20 to 40 times higher in the baby greens. So when you're adding just a little bit of baby greens to your meals, you're getting a huge natural anti-cancer nutrients. And also, we can sprout the same seeds we grow in microgreens in soil. We have a greener top. We can sprout them in just in a sprouter. You can make your own sprouter out of a big glass container, but you can also just buy one of these electric sprouters like the Tri-Best sprouter we have at the retreat, where you plug it in and it waters it and mixes it and cleans it by itself. So you have no work to do except putting the seeds in, turn it on, and a week later you come and you take and eat the sprouts and you put it in and you put. So we usually have 2 running at different 3 days apart. So we always have fresh sprouts, but if you have even just one of the sprouters, every 5 days you'll have a new sprouts. You can start and you'll be able to start a new sprout then, and you can eat those for the next few days.
So can you just, because that's what I do, I kind of just sprinkle my microgreens on my salad and whatever I'm eating. Is that little amount enough to really move the needle?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying even using a little microgreens added onto your salad is
Just
adding
like a sprinkle.
Yeah, it's adding a significant nutritional benefit to your food. So even if you're not eating a whole salad of microgreens, just a handful, sprinkle on. Do you buy microgreens at a microgreen place, or do you make your own?
I buy them from the market. They are organic, and one lady grows them, but she grows all different types.
Yeah, because you have like these farmers markets that have them. But most people don't even have access to those microgreens, and sometimes they're too expensive.
Right.
And it's not expensive to grow them yourself.
I just have to give a shout out to wasabi microgreens, though, because they add like a little kick, and they're such a cool flavor.
Oh, really?
So, I mean, I love those.
Oh, and once the soil has the roots and stuff into it, you can take that and put it back into your compost again. And then with your food compost, and it becomes more your soil again. So you recycle everything,
So your big takeaways, though, I mean, you started off with compost. And growing up, I was always a little scared of the compost because we kind of left it in an area in the kitchen, and it was in this bowl, and you took it out. And the worst chore you had to do growing up was take the compost out, and it was like half a mile walk to where you kept it.
It wasn't that far.
to literally 12-year-old Jenna, it was extremely far. Okay. But now I'm into it because they have these really cute, like make your kitchen cuter compost buckets and stuff like that. So you can get fashionable.
You can get these electronic you can do all these things, but I just take the compost out. You know what I do? I have a grinder where you put the compost into this. It's hand churned. You churn the grinder. It's used to break up apples to put them in the juicing machines. So I put the compost in this grinder. It forms into little pieces, and then I mix it in with the weeds from the house, the dried out weeds. And I mix it to make my compost.
So you mix it inside and then bring it outside and you just dump it?
No, I bring it outside and mix it near the compost pile. And then I buy this special type, these bags of bacteria. I think it's called Green Pig is the name of the bacteria I buy. It's called Green Pig Compost Accelerator. And I put that in a water bucket and I water the compost with the Green Pig.
It's kind of like a fertilizer, a natural fertilizer?
It's a bacteria.
Oh, it's right.
That chews up the compost, so it breaks it down real fast. And I actually have a compost thermometer. I put the thermometer in the compost because now it could be 110 degrees because I have a big compost pile with the bacteria. It's heating up and decomposing. You don't want to add the worms when it's so hot. It'll kill the worms. So I usually cover it with a dark tarp to keep it hotter, to keep it really hot while it's decomposing with the bacteria. And then 2 months later, I have it well watered, take the tarp off, take the weights off the top of it, and now I can make sure it's not over 90 degrees in there, water it again, and if it's below 90 degrees, I can put the worms in. So I buy red wiggler worms, which are the best for composting, red wigglers. And now I put the red wigglers in the compost. It's almost ready to be used, and I keep it 2 more months with the red wigglers. So it's a 4-month process, but I have 3 piles of compost going. One I'm adding to the compost, one I'm using the compost to fertilize my trees, and one is either covered or it's sitting there uncovered with worms in it. So once I uncover it, I put the worms in it.
Why do you cover it in the first place?
I cover it to keep it hotter.
You want it, so you are trying to, because you want it to break down without the worms?
I want it to decompose, and that's right, to ferment without the worms with the bacteria. And it speeds up. Then I add the worms, and it turns it into worm castings, and I get a beautiful soil, rich, dark soil.
So your fruits and vegetables, like the compost, you don't add any dirt to it. It literally just becomes dirt with worms and bacteria and all the beautiful living organisms that you add.
Yes, but I do add a little dirt to it too.
Oh, okay. Where do you get that dirt? Just from the land?
Either some of the dirt that I have that's growing, that I have around the property, I'll add a little bit and mix a little bit of natural dirt into it. Or it's sometimes in growing trees, I've purchased a big mound of high quality soil, like topsoil or mushroom, that I bought. Because I didn't really, when I first started out, I didn't have enough compost to plant all the trees I planted, so I had to have some dirt I purchased. So I'll sometimes mix a little dirt into it, just so it retains the moisture better.
Yeah. So you have to be truthful here. With the 3 piles of compost, are you being a little extra, or do you recommend, or is the 3 piles necessary? Does everyone have to do that?
Well, I'm like, it's my hobby now.
Yeah. So you're experimenting, essentially?
I'm becoming like a little, hobby farmer where I'm making my own fertilizer for the trees because I want to use I don't want to use the chicken manure fertilizer or the chemical fertilizers that kill the worms.
Right.
I want to be regenerative soils so I'm really getting into it.
So you're really going for it.
And I have over 100 fruit trees.
Right.
So I need a lot of I need a lot of fertilizer to make a lot of fertilizer for all these trees I'm growing.
Right. I don't know if people realize you live right next to the retreat. Like the Eat to Live retreat is, you have a wall that borders your house from the retreat. So every morning when you're composting and you have all this land and fruit trees, that's the Eat to Live retreat.
But that's on the retreat. But I have some fruit trees, 100 trees on the retreat property and about 30 trees on our property next door.
Because sometimes I see you out with guests, like showing them what you're doing. And
this morning I was out there with a guest helping me pick bok choy from the garden, and we were pulling weeds, and then we were planting, and also planting new seeds.
Which I hope they knew how good that was for them, just to be interacting with the
they like to learn. They learn a lot up there. But they also like to see what I'm doing in the garden too, so they follow me. They help me sometimes.
For sure. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So you're saying compost, and we got some instructions there. I would be scared to order these earthworm castings. Is that like a bag of worms? Like, how do they ship?
No, the earthworm castings are just a bag of dirt. They're dirt that came, because they took the compost that came from the earthworms and they screened the earthworms out of it and just gave the dirt that were produced by the earthworms. So earthworms castings, there's no worms in there.
Oh, I'm so happy I asked that for all the people that thought they actually had to get worms mailed to them and I could just see myself.
No, but for the compost pile, I do order worms by mail and open up the bag and and you have to make sure that they're getting to you. You can't let them sit on your doorstep. The minute the bag arrives of worms, you got to open it up and put it in the compost.
Honestly, I think the people out there who want to investigate that just have to. Earthworms are animals. They're cool. Are they animals? No, they're insects. But insects could be cool. They could be nice. They don't have to attack. I'm talking myself into this. They're not blood sucking. They can be cute, right?
They're great earthworms.
Really?
Yeah, these are wigglers, and they wiggle around all over the place.
Yeah, it's not.
But the trick is, don't waste your money on putting earthworms in your compost unless you use the thermometer to check your compost pile wasn't too hot. So if your compost is decaying and it's too hot, you're just going to put the earthworms and they're going to die.
But we're learning a lot of information because heat is good when it's heating up the bacteria and getting things cooking, if you will, and then we're getting the earthworms and it's not so hot. So the change in temperature.
The earthworms finish up the job.
Right.
It's already decomposed a lot.
Okay, so you got your compost. We're planting microgreens. We're doing all the things. We have lots of plants and even fig trees and Mayway kumquat trees indoors. These are all the things that you're recommending.
Yes, and I'm putting rings around my fruit trees outside where I'm going to put this compost with the worms. Now the worms are in the compost, but they also soften and aerate the soil around the tree and make the soil better around the tree. And I'm taking that compost and I'm laying it on top of my vegetable garden. I'm not going to dig it down deep inside. I'm just going to lay it right on top and plant my vegetables in it. And it'll sit down.
We know that's what the big farms do wrong.
Yeah, We don't want to till the soil deeply. We just want to keep putting layers of better, rich nutrients on the surface.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. This to me makes sense because especially that article that Mom sent us. So Mom sent us that article about how it is harder to be skinnier, or it is harder to be your optimal weight now than it was in the 1980s due to the quality of food. She's saying that you could, in the article it said you could eat the same diet, the same amount of calories that you did in the 80s.
The same amount of calories and same amount of exercise.
Yeah, same.
But you'll be heavier today.
But you'll be heavier. And
that's from exposure to chemicals, mostly plastic and endocrine disruptors from eating processed food and fast food.
So how scary is that? That's horrible when I think about that.
There's a million other things that those foods also destroy your brain. They just age your body. They make you be fat. You know what? Your body holds on to fluid and fat when you're more toxic. Mm-hmm. It has to swell itself out as a way of diluting the acidity and the toxicity of all the unhealthy things you're eating. So the healthier you eat, the body doesn't have to hold on to fluid and hold on to extra fat.
So on that topic, we were just in Italy, and I swear I've heard this so many times. The food is just different there. You're walking, you can eat pasta and pizza, and you won't gain as much weight because the food is just different. Do you think that's hogwash, or you think there's or because they do have so many farms, there's some validity to that?
No, it's just pure bull.
Oh, really?
Did you see, we went to Italy, right?
Yeah.
We saw people my age that looked about double my age.
Yeah.
They were all overweight. All the Italians were overweight. All the women who were the waitresses in the hotel were overweight.
Well, you can't generalize.
Well, a lot of them, most of them, right? Because they were eating pasta and olive oil. And we went to these people they raised their own vegetables. They grew figs. They grew tomatoes. They made their own tomato sauce. And they were and they were younger than me, and they looked like they were 100 years old, and they were overweight. They have big pot bellies because they're drinking, they're putting olive oil in their food, they're eating pasta and bread, and these extra things they're adding to destroy the health of their food is impacting them and their negative health, and they're not living. Even the old-time Mediterranean diets, these people are not working 8 hours behind a plow in a field all day, but they're still eating a diet that can't sustain modern living where people are sitting around most of the day. Too many concentrated calories, too many processed foods, too much white flour, too much oil, too much sugar.
Yeah, and we live in a culture where it's just so easy to sit for an extended amount of time. And
so they're getting heavy all over the world. All over the world, people are getting heavy and dying younger, and they're not living longer, certainly.
Right.
You know,
it's uncomfortable, I think, for people, and even me being very into work, you almost feel guilty for like getting up from your desk to do things like prepare lunch, like spend time in the kitchen, spend time gardening. And I think that's when I think about it, I'm like, stop feeling that guilt, because it's so good for you and so healthy and so a part of life. So if you feel too like caught up in the rat race to do other things, it just really does help to take initiative and start gardening, spending time.
And the facts are, I mean, people don't like some people don't like my message. They feel I'm too radical. But the facts are, in the modern world, with all these chemicals around us and when we're more sedentary, we have to ratchet up the quality of our diet if we expect to have a healthy and happy life.
Yeah.
We just need to eat. We can't eat like other people eat. We have to do much better than them.
Right.
And we can't, because we have all this other negative impact on our,
So back on the topic of at-home gardening, have you seen those? They're like a hydroponics, there's water in the base. You could bring it right into your home, and it has 2 sticks, and you can plant a whole bunch of different plants in your house. Would that be something good to?
Well, those are still emotionally fulfilling, and I'm saying there is a benefit to gardening from the emotional fulfillment of growing your own food. But I'm saying that is not ideal, because you're still not getting the bacteria, the fungi, the worms, the insects. You're not getting all the natural. You're not getting
there's no dirt in those things.
There's no dirt. You're just putting nutrients into a soil, into a water mix. It's like you're living on. It's like eating commercially raised produce that's used fertilizer and not used natural regenerative organic agriculture, where you're getting the fungi and the ergothioneine and all these different nutrients that you would normally get.
Well, I had no idea that wasn't ideal. I was like, I'm just going to get this thing, but you're saying
they're pretty.
They're
They're nice.
You need the quality dirt.
You could do that, but you still have to do what I still want you to do, the work with the dirt too.
It's not going to yield the same like lettuce, the same quality of nutrients.
Not the same quality.
Oh, that's really interesting.
And just having some of that super quality food is a valuable adjunct to your healthy diet.
Wow. So should we get into some member questions?
Okay, great.
Okay, so we are going to start featuring and asking our members at drfuhrman.com to submit some questions, and we're going to pick some of them and go over them right now. So you ready, Doctor?
Yeah.
All right.
We're going to pick them out of a hat, or just
I have them. I'm just going to pick them off my list.
Okay.
Got this. But should we do that for make it a little more fun, spicy? Okay. How important is it to eat your meals at the right time? I work 5 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. I have breakfast around 6 and lunch at 10. We have dinner around 5. I find if I don't have a snack around 2 p.m., I overeat at dinner. Is that okay? My snack is usually fruit or a little bit of hummus. I've tried to push back breakfast, but that doesn't work for me. Do you have any suggestions?
Well, the question illustrates one important point that she's doing right, and that she's having dinner at 5 o'clock, not at 8 o'clock at night. So we're saying the most important thing is to finish your dinner 4 hours before you go to bed. So if you go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, you should finish eating by 6.
This question is really near and dear to my heart, actually, because I used to intermittent fast and do earlier dinners, and I loved it. I just felt like I didn't have as much acid reflux. I felt like I was sleeping better. I felt more energy. For all these reasons, I really was like, oh, this is why intermittent fasting is cool.
Right.
But then I think I got a little comfortable. My dinner window kept getting later and later, and I stopped. And I just picked it up again, and I really have tried to focus on the eat 4 hours before bed, which someone like me, I'm an early bird. I wake up at 7 on the dot every single day. I love my sleep. So I go to bed actually at 9:30. And so that's pretty early.
Me too. I've been going to bed early because I've been waking up at 6 o'clock to go work in the garden. So I've been going to bed like 9 o'clock.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so that's like you have to eat dinner then at 4:30.
Well, I'm still eating dinner, eating at 5. I'm done by 5:30 usually. So that's why eating her idea of a snack is okay, because she's going to eat a lighter dinner. So it's eating an earlier dinner in her case, she's doing the right thing, because if she's hungry in the afternoon and has a light snack, like some carrot sticks, tomatoes, a piece of fruit,
Totally.
she's not going to eat a heavy meal that's going to stop her appetite for dinner, just something to bide her over so she can eat her dinner earlier and lighter. And then that's keeping most important. It's not as healthy to skip breakfast and delay eating breakfast as a means of increasing your caloric window to a smaller number of hours.
Right.
Don't do it by not eating breakfast. Do it by eating dinner earlier. And so that's having that 14-hour window. She's doing the right thing. It's okay to do what she's doing.
But she does wake up at 5 a.m. So if she goes
But she doesn't eat dinner. She eats dinner like at 6 or 7, right?
5.
Oh, she eats dinner at 5?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dinner around 5.
No. I mean, she eats breakfast.
Oh, at 6.
She eats breakfast at 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's okay.
Yeah, so I just moved up my dinner earlier, and it feels so good, and I can't believe I ever stopped. So. And
if I overeat a little bit at breakfast or lunch, it's okay, because you won't eat most of the day to make up for it. You'll eat less for lunch. You'll eat a later lunch. You won't eat lunch. But you really be careful not to overeat at dinner.
Yeah.
Because that's what you don't want to overeat, because you don't want to have food in your stomach when you go to bed at night.
Right.
So if you're going to have a little too much food, or you're going to make a mistake at lunch, don't overeat at dinner.
And you also said the timing, it's more so, you always say not to snack because you want us hungry for the next meal. Right. But you said it's really important that you're giving your body that time at night to rest and digest. If you do have a little snack and it helps you not overeat at dinner, that you're saying it's the right thing. Yeah,
it's better if you had to have a piece of fruit in the afternoon because you were getting too hungry because you didn't eat enough for lunch. You got too hungry at 3:30, 4 o'clock. Either eat the meal then, or have a piece of fruit, or have something light and then eat the meal when you're going to meet with your family at 5 o'clock. But still, she's saying it's still, that's okay, because we want the time between meals to heal and to repair. But the most important time to heal and repair is when you're sleeping. So you don't want to disturb that by having digestion going on while you're sleeping.
Got it. All right, so.
There's one more question?
A few. Why are mushrooms part of G-bombs? Are they really a food you need every day? What's the best way to eat them? Is it better to eat them as a whole food, a supplement, a powder? There's so many ways to consume mushrooms.
The studies show that any way you eat them contributes to longer lifespan. Even with berries, if you make them berry powder and you give it to people who have squamous cell dysplasia, it reverses it, or reverses early stage cancers, even the powder from the vegetable.
Oh, like your berry boost? You're saying even berry powder?
Even berry powders have anti-cancer effects. So the mushroom powders have anti-cancer effect. Whether you're using some raw mushrooms or you're using cooked mushrooms, they all have been shown in various studies to have anti-cancer effects. So I tell people that you want to eat mushrooms, try to eat them every day if you can, but it's not even good enough to eat some mushrooms every day. I want people to eat a variety of mushrooms. So I want them to get different types of mushrooms in their diet to maximize their health, because that's what primitive humans did, and they have incredible effect on increasing immune function later in life too, and back protection against viruses and bacteria, and in preventing immune system degradation with aging.
So that's why you put 10 different mushrooms in your supplements.
10 different mushrooms in the supplements. And also when I go to the store and I see portobello, cremini, white button mushrooms, and then I see some more expensive mushroom like trumpet, oyster,
I love king oyster mushrooms.
I'm going to spend the money, whatever it costs, on those extra mushrooms to get a little more mushroom variety. And it's not going to be that expensive, because even if it's $10 a pound, you're not going to use that much of it, and you can spread it out for a few days. But even the point we're making here is even a little bit of these superfoods so I'm always buying shiitake mushrooms, and I'm buying the cheaper white button mushrooms, but I'm also then buying some of the little bit of the more expensive mushrooms to mix in. And I'm also taking my immune biotech supplement. I take at least one of those a day, which has the 10 different mushroom extracts, because it's that incredible mushroom exposure. Just like the green vegetable exposure. We're not just eating kale. We're eating lettuces and kale and bok choy, and we're getting a lot of different greens too. We're trying to increase the variety of greens, the variety of mushrooms, and the variety of different types of fruits we eat too.
Got it. That's really cool. Yeah, I love mushrooms. And for those people who don't really like mushrooms, the texture, I feel like we always meet one a month at the retreat. There's someone that's like, I hate mushrooms. Yeah. But what's really wild is, I do this for Jacob, you dice them up really tiny and add them to your cooking and stuff like that, and it adds a good texture, but you can't even taste it.
You can't taste them.
And you're saying the small amounts still do make a difference.
Right, even a small amount makes a difference. And
That's so wild. Yeah, a little bit goes a long way. Okay, next question. This question is very on topic of what we talked about, but I'm just going to ask it because I want a little more elaboration. I'm interested in growing kumquats and figs at home. So they've been listening, especially in the Midwest where overwintering is needed. Where do you get the starter plants, and will they survive the winter indoors? Do the plants grown over the summer need direct indoor sunlight during the winter, or is indirect okay? Any elaboration on growing plants, these plants, is welcome.
Figs and oranges are different. Figs you can keep in the garage. You can wrap them up and cover them in a you can put them in a garbage, in a garbage pail. So figs need a period of time where they're going into dormancy. So they don't need sun during the dormant season. You could put them in the garage or in a shed in the backyard.
Okay.
But you can also bring them into the house too. But if you're going to bring them in the house, keep them out of the sun for at least 3 months. And
do you kind of like clip all the leaves off and...
No, the leaves will fall off by themselves. Okay. You should trim the fig trees so they don't have too many, less branches.
Right.
So you want to have some sturdier branches coming up, not have a million individual branches. So we do prune them a little bit.
Okay.
But they don't need sun when they're pulled out of the circulation. The orange trees, though, produce during the winter. And they're good to be in front of a window and get some sun if you're pulling them from the outside and indoors.
Super cool.
So you should have it.
The kumquat trees are so beautiful, too. I mean, it really is.
And they don't grow so big. They're to grow in your living room because you have a beautiful living room tree. And
That's cool.
And you know what's nice about kumquats? You can leave the kumquat on the tree for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. It's not going to go bad if it's on the tree.
Really?
When you're ready to have more kumquats, you pick it off the tree and you can eat it.
And you're saying they grow all year round?
No, they grow during, let's say, they produce food during December, January, February, March, and then the oranges will sit there ripe for the next 6 months. You can just eat them as you need. See, if you have a peach tree, the whole peach tree ripens, and you got to pick all the peaches off the tree. You can't leave the peach in the tree; it'll get too ripe. But with an orange, you can let it just sit on the tree. It'll stay there, not right, and be edible when you pick it. It's like keeping it in a root cellar or in a refrigerator. Just keep it on the tree, and so you can keep it on. So your tree can have beautiful kumquats on it 8 months of the year. And I have numerous kumquat trees, so there's always some kumquats on the trees. I just pick them little as we're eating, and we're picking more and more off.
You're hired. You're putting some in my living room this weekend.
Okay.
Last question. I hear a lot about long COVID, so I'm even curious how, and I think I know your answer, how can someone recover from long COVID if they're suffering from those symptoms?
Yeah, I guess the underlying philosophy of the nutritarian diet is the same diet that slows aging and maximizes human longevity, also maximizes your chance of keeping well and staying well and reversing disease. So they've got to ratchet up the quality of their diet. They got to eat the sprouts, the microgreens, the mushrooms, get all the junk food out of their diet, lose body fat, do all the things we talk about on a nutritarian diet. So the body is, all we're doing is enabling to excite and allow the miraculous self-healing properties of the body.
I knew you were going there.
Fully manifest itself.
Right.
And of course, we're talking also about not taking the vaccines that are against COVID that could potentially hurt your heart or hurt your immune system. It's still somewhat experimental, and I'm trying to have people rely on their own innate immunity and not take drugs and not take vaccines and minimize your exposure to medical technology where you don't know the long-term effects in your body. It's all you're a human guinea pig. So much more faith in nature and living a natural life and staying away from especially new medical technologies. And as we learn in medical school, all drugs are toxic, and most of them increase risk of cancer, and you don't get something for nothing. If something has some efficacy, it also has some risk involved. There's some risk-benefit ratio, and to think that vaccines have no harm or no risks involved is just very simplistic. So if you want to avoid these serious illnesses, you got to stay away from drugs, including vaccines.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were talking about this the other day where I think we were actually talking in the context of psychedelics that are shown to help with some depressive symptoms. Yeah. It's all about like weighing pros and cons. So even I think your views as a medical doctor is really cool, because you're saying, does that drug make sense here, or does it make more sense to not take it? So based on the individual's needs and where they're at, but you don't get something for nothing.
There's some risk involved.
The magic pill always has some side effects.
If it's magical, it has some potential risks too. There's no magic in the healthcare arena.
Right.
You have to earn good health.
Through healthy living.
Yeah, health is earned. You can't buy it.
This is so funny that before he's saying it, his some famous quotes are just ringing in my head, and then you say it. But really, I just love the body as a miraculous self-healing machine, because that is something that's very easy to understand. When you eat the right foods, you're really letting your body heal and repair. And through anything, through long COVID or autoimmune conditions, it's all about getting the nutrients and letting your body repair and do the healing for you.
And that's the most rewarding part of my career, is seeing people that were seriously ill and suffering make complete recoveries from serious illnesses like lupus. I once had a girl who was 16 years old, who was on the National Renal Transplant list waiting for a new kidney with lupus, with a creatinine of 4.2, which means her kidneys are all shot. She needed a transplant. And she made a complete recovery. Creatinine went down to 0.8, and she got rid of her lupus.
So
it's
crazy.
Just, isn't that crazy? And that makes you feel so good, right? About how you were able to change these people's lives.
I feel like that's why when you went into retirement, semi-retirement, is why you actually started the retreat, because you didn't want to stop working with people in that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's so much fun.
And, on a smaller scale, just in terms of long COVID, when I was 16, what really got me I went from just doing the Nutritarian diet at home because my parents, that's what they served, to it really being my decision, because I had severe symptoms from mono. I just couldn't get energy. I was always tired, and I felt congested and chronically sick. And you did your whole spiel. You said, Jen, if you really want to get better, eat my diet 100%. And I did, and I got better. So that was really
There's only one way, right? There's not a lot of ways to be healthy. People are all out into gimmicks and tricks and all kinds but you really got to get down to the basics.
Yeah, but I do think what's really cool for anyone starting or people struggling with it is the more you do it, the more cravings go away, the more temptation, the more bad side effects. It strengthens why you do this, and your body starts to respond to that. It starts to really say, hey, I like this. Keep it going.
The more you do it, the more you enjoy it, the more you get into it. Yeah.
100%.
All right, well, glad you joined us today, everybody, and hope you got some benefit from this.
Let's get gardening, Dad.
Yeah. Let us know about what you, if you're going to incorporate some of the things we're talking about, if you're going to change, how it changed your life, and if you're going to try any of these tips and advice we're giving you. Let us know how you're trying them and how it's working out.
Yes, you could comment in the member section or at drfuhrman.com/podcasts.